The next deadly psychological sin is avoidance. I run into a lot of avoidance in my practice. People that come to counseling and say, I just can't get myself to do the things that I know I should be doing. And they typically use this little one-liner, I'm just not motivated. And I point out to them that, yes, you are motivated. You're motivated to sit on the couch instead of get up and exercise. You're motivated to talk on the phone instead of clean that room that you know you need to clean. So you are motivated. All behavior, we say, is operative. You're either trying to avoid something or trying to obtain something. Now, the things we avoid are classic, pretty typically things like healthy eating, exercise, cleaning and organizing our lives, doing certain non-preferred tasks. And finally, and this is probably the highest on the list, people tend to avoid having difficult conversations. Having that difficult conversation with someone with whom you have a little bit of a conflict maybe that you need to iron out. People just really don't want to do that. They tend to catastrophize that conversation into something horrible and then they avoid it. But the thing is that following through on those things, getting that exercise, making that healthy meal, cleaning that room, and having that conversation, these things pay huge dividends. You feel so good when you actually follow through on them. So how to get from point A to point B, that's the question. The replacement behavior for avoidance is action. God has given us this amazing thing called a free will. Now, I realize that there are some behavioral scientists that deny that human beings possess a free will. They think we're just genetically programmed and biologically programmed or influenced by our environment, and we're just like little cells in a petri dish. We just respond to our environment in these predictable and precise ways. Yet we can see exceptions to what we call typical human behavior, and those exceptions to me indicate that we do have freedom. Now, using our free will can be a difficult thing, particularly in a condition that we call learned helplessness. There are certain people that have great difficulty being proactive in their lives and taking control, so to speak. Those people are often victims of trauma or victims of abuse. That trait is learned helplessness. It appears often in a condition called borderline personality disorder, where people seem to have little to no impulse control and will act out in very self-destructive ways. Borderline personality clients were thought untreatable until a woman named Marsha Linehan came upon the scene. Marsha Linehan developed a type of treatment called dialectical behavioral therapy, and essentially dialectical behavioral therapy is just training the will. She taught people how to go directly against their inclinations in an exercise called opposite action. If they feel like going into the kitchen and binging on sugar, she taught them to take a walk instead. If they felt like going to the shopping mall and running up their credit card, she taught them to go to the soup kitchen and volunteer instead. Do the exact opposite of what you feel like doing. And Marsha Linehan, through dialectical behavioral therapy, was able to make progress with borderline clients, progress that had not been made by any other clinician. I recommend lists. I love lists. Lists will help us to follow through on what we call non-preferred tasks, and they do it in a very interesting way. Every time you check an item off the list, you get a little dopamine boost in your brain. You accomplish something, it feels good. And when you complete an entire list, boy, that feels like, you know, something like, dare I say it, cocaine. But much better because it doesn't have the negative side effects. So I recommend lists because if you put your non-preferred tasks on that list, you'll get sort of a secondary benefit from checking that item off. It'll sort of trick your brain out of thinking you don't want to do it. Let me tell you about a woman named Edith Eger. Edith Eger lived through the Holocaust. She was a Jew, Nazi Germany. She watched her parents sent to the gas chamber. A German guard broke her back. She endured the death march in Europe, and she wasted away to 40 pounds. 40 pounds. She was put on a pile of bodies left for dead, and the war ended. An American soldier saw her hand move, pulled her out of the pile of bodies. The medics came, and her life was saved. Edith Eger went on to speak about her experience with the Holocaust. And what she emphasized was the fact that we have a choice. She remembered that her colleagues resorted to cannibalism. They would eat dead people to sustain their lives. She chose not to do that. She also remembers lying in the grass and thanking God that she still had a choice as to which blade of grass to eat. You know, our free will is like a present. We were so excited as little kids to see those presents under the tree. How strange would it have been if Christmas morning came and we didn't even open them? Our free will is like, for many of us, a present that we never open. I recommend that you start to learn how to act on what you know is right. And just do it. Just experiment with it. Just experiment on making a list and making yourself follow through, and you'll start to feel good about yourself. Open your presents.